Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Underwriting assistance for our program is provided by the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing. Fall is approaching, and today on Oklahoma Gardening, we take a little trip to the pumpkin growing capital of America. We learn about the National Garden Bureau, and we've got another spin on constructing a raised bed. Today we are joined by a guest here at the Botanic Garden, and you might recognize her from a previous segment. This is Diane Blazek, who is also the Executive Director of All America Selections. While we've talked to her in that capacity, she wears a second hat, and that's being the Executive Director of the National Garden Bureau. Welcome, Diane. Appreciate you coming today.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, Diane, tell us a little bit about the National Garden Bureau and what their role is.
National Garden Bureau is now 101 years old, wow. So we are even older than All America Selections. But our purpose and our mission is really to encourage and inspire people to do more gardening, to plant more plants.
And that's something we all love, right?
Exactly, right. So we love working with public gardens, and we have a lot of different programs that do that. One that I think you're very interested in is new plants.
Absolutely.
So we do a whole program. So if you want to know what's new from the industry, you go to our website and you click on new plants, and you're going to find out about what new petunia there is and what new perennial there is and what the new pepper is. And
this isn't just classified information for television hosts, right? It's for the consumer to find this information.
Exactly, right. Yeah, because they can go to our website and find it, and then hopefully go to their favorite local garden retailer and find it there.
So who are your people that you work with to get this information?
Yeah, it's actually the seed breed, not just seed, it's all breeding companies. It's way more than just seed now.
Okay.
So if there is a flowering shrub breeder, if there is a vegetable breeder, if there's vegetatively propagated breeders that are working with whatever crops, those are all of our members, and they submit their new varieties to us, and we help market them.
Okay, and you also do horticulture related products too, is that correct?
Well, we also feature a lot of horticulture related products. Yes, from our members, the same kind of thing, like hard goods, like what's the newest and greatest knife or hoe or pruners or anything like that.
It's all kind of related there.
Exactly. Yeah, you need it all in your garden.
And tell us, there's another little program that you guys do, not little program, it's a national program, but about the plant of the year. So this is something that you regularly do. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We do, yes, and it's been growing like crazy, so it's really fun. It's called the Year of program, and what we do is we focus on a specific plant class, not a specific variety, because there are Year of programs out there, the specific varieties. So ours is, we have one annual, one perennial, one flowering shrub, one edible, and one bulb crop.
Okay.
So this year, the reason we're standing here is it's the year of the hardy hibiscus for our flowering shrub. And then our edible is the garden bean, which, I mean, there's so many different kinds of beans.
Right.
Our bulb crop is the hyacinth. I'm going to save the best for last, I think.
Okay.
Our perennial is the Monarda, and then our annual is the sunflower.
Yeah, we all love sunflowers.
Right.
And all of those do really well here in Oklahoma. So is that something that you look for when you're doing the plant of, is not Oklahoma, but just nationally, that they tend to do well across the country?
Yes, that is a criteria. And it doesn't always happen, but we try to. So like this year we may have a flowering shrub that does well just in a certain region. Well, next year then it will be one that's from all over. So, I mean, it is gardening. It is Mother Nature we're dealing with. So it's kind of hard to do one thing for everybody when we have so many different climates throughout North America.
Well, we do love our hardy hibiscus here in Oklahoma, as well as our sunflowers and other plants. So this is a great to know. So their website again is where you can find all of this information?
Absolutely. It's where you can go to be inspired. It's ngb.org.
Okay. Thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you.
Today we are not in Oklahoma. We are out in the panhandle of Texas in a small town called Floydada. And Floydada is the pumpkin capital of the USA. And today joining us is Lindsey Pyle, who is one of the owners and operators of the Pumpkin Pyle farm. And it looks like we caught you at harvest season. We're so excited to be out here.
Yes, and we're so glad to have all of you here today. You are standing in the middle of a 40-acre block out of our 800 acres that we grow.
Wow. So in order to get them to, you ship to grocery stores, gardens, and in fact, that's why we're here, because our pumpkins at the Botanic Garden are coming from you guys. So we're so excited to see them.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit, obviously harvest season goes well into October, but tell us how this product actually gets started earlier in the season.
So we book all of our seed in early December, start getting the crops plowed and watered and ready for planting. That starts in May and runs through June.
Okay, so we're in a different climate out here than what we're used to in Oklahoma, and the soils are a little bit different. It seems like an ideal place to grow pumpkins. Can you tell us a little bit about your soil and your climate that maybe benefits those pumpkins?
We are, I guess, just the perfect match. We are not hard red clay and we're not super sandy.
Okay.
And so just the mixture of all of our soil makes it just the perfect conditions for the pumpkin crop.
And it's a little bit of a drier climate, is that correct? But everything's irrigated?
Yes, so the field that we're standing in is underground drip irrigation. We also use a pivot sprinkler system in some of our acres as well.
Well, I know just from the few vines that I've grown in my garden, squash bugs are always a problem. I can only imagine what sort of pests you have out here. Can you tell us a little bit about the different pests you have? And some of them aren't just squash bugs. You've got some bigger issues too.
Yes. So we actually treat to prevent the pest problems as far as squash bugs. That's probably one of the biggest problems that pumpkins face, as well as mold and mildew. And so all of ours is preventative measures. We have an entomologist on our staff full time. And we also have problems with deer and wild hogs and critters, rabbits, raccoons, you name it. And so there's not a whole lot we can do about that, but we do try to prevent most of the damage before it starts.
So how do you sort of structure your planting so that you're able to harvest over a set period? Do you do succession planting or?
Yes, we start in mid-May and we will actually plant stages all the way through the month of June. And so that way we can continue and everybody's getting as fresh produce as possible.
All right, so I know you also do a lot of other fall decorative botanical items. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those other products that you
Yes, so we will ship pumpkins, gourds, squash, ornamental corn, corn bundles, 2 different sizes of hay bales. So we're the optimal, or strive to be the optimal farm decor all in one bundle.
All right, and you've even got that Indian corn that we need to go with our pumpkins as well.
Yes.
And it looks like the guys are doing amazing. I can't imagine throwing these. Is it all hand harvested? Is that?
Yes, everything we grow and sell is manual labor harvest. So they work super hard to get all of the pumpkins out of the field as quick as they can.
So Lindsey, can you tell us a little bit about the mechanics of actually harvesting the pumpkins out here?
Yes, so again, everything is done by manual labor. And so as you can tell, we have a trailer that has already been ready to go. We're going to get that to our warehouse as quick as possible. We have people that come in, cut the pumpkins off of the vine, and then as soon as they're cut off the vine, we need them in the shade and out of the sun and heat as quick as possible because it is fresh produce. So we have the people that come and cut the pumpkins, they line them up for our loaders, and then we have tractors and trailers that run through the field, load them up, and then we're ready to get them to town.
Okay. So Lindsey, it looks like we have a lot of pumpkins already harvested. Tell us kind of what that process is post-harvest, if you will.
So we're standing in one of the several warehouses that we have, and these pumpkins are ready to ship on trucks and head out to gardens and botanic gardens and nurseries, churches, anywhere that does a pumpkin patch.
So the large ones, basically, once they're in the containers out in the field, they're ready to go at that point?
Yes, and we're set up right here in one of our top sellers, the Cinderella.
Okay.
There is all shapes and sizes. I grabbed just a mini sugar pie pumpkin, which is also great for baking, and so we're ready to ship.
So tell us a little bit about the variety that you grow and how many, because there's a lot of different pumpkins around here. Tell us a little bit about how many you grow.
So we grow about 60 different varieties, all shapes and sizes, colors.
Any bestsellers?
We've got the Cinderella, Fairy Tale, and Crystal Star are probably our top 3 varieties, besides our orange jack-o'-lanterns, of course.
Okay. And behind us, we've got the corn drying, because you mentioned you've done a lot of other fall decorations as well. So you've got Indian corn, mini corn even, mini hay bales. Tell us a little bit about all of that. It's been drying for a while, or?
Yes, so the corn harvest actually starts in the middle of August. We get all of that out of the way. Everything is, again, picked by hand, shucked by hand, and then put out on drying racks. It dries for about 10 days at least before we can box. And then our corn bundles are against the wall drying as well.
Okay.
So.
And tell me a little bit, is the Indian corn a little more difficult to grow than just regular corn, or is it?
It needs a little more pampering to get all of the special colors and sizes.
Okay, all right. And so also I know that you've got another warehouse that we have been to. Tell us a little bit about what that other warehouse is and what's going on in that processing plant.
So the other processing warehouse is anything that needs to be cleaned up and stickered depending on where it might be going. Our little baby pumpkins you can hold in the palm of your hand. They run through a great big bathtub, sprinkled with waterfall, and then run through a small car wash almost, and then graded and sacked and ready to go for everybody's Thanksgiving table.
Okay, and they look beautiful. They look plastic. They are not.
They're not.
They're 100% botanical.
Yes.
But do you wax them or anything to help preserve them? Or?
We don't. We sell obvious for decorative, but they are all edible, so they're just cleaned up and washed. No wax, no anything is put on them.
Okay, and I noticed some big pumpkins have stickers, some don't. Some are in little gourds are in sacks, some are in large containers. Can you tell us a little bit about why that is?
It just depends on what our customer needs are. The little bitty baby pumpkins will have 700 pieces to a bin, which is a ton of pumpkins for some, and so we just sell them, to meet every customer's need.
Excellent. And again, you're a wholesale operation that is going full steam right now, because this again is just one of your many warehouses that you have where you're storing the pumpkins. Yes. I feel like we've seen the whole process. Is there anything that we've missed along the way?
So, fun fact we forgot to mention in the field is every pumpkin you see that comes from Pumpkin Pyle has to be pollinated by a bee. And so the bee population and taking care of the bees is a huge deal as well for us.
Yeah. So it all starts with the bees in order for us to have our fall harvest.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this story with us.
Yes, I'm so glad that you were here today.
We're here in our backyard demonstration garden, and today we want to feature another raised bed. And today we're looking at repurposing a product that you might have seen. And now this is a product that we kind of have termed rubber lumber, because we're reusing rubber from old tires. Now there's a lot of questions about using tires for raised bed, and for that we're going to talk with Steve Upson, who is with the Noble Research Institute, who kind of came up with this design. So welcome, Steve. Thank you for joining us today.
Good to be here, Casey.
So, Steve, tell us a little bit about your rubber lumber raised bed design.
We're looking originally for something that would replace wood. And so, tires are ubiquitous. But we wanted to kind of look at some new and different ways to use tires in gardening. And so to replace treated lumber, we thought, well, shoot, let's just try some tire tread and make rubber lumber out of it.
Okay.
And so we came up with this idea quite a while ago, and we perfected it, we think, and got some plans on how to assemble rubber lumber, making with the repurposed rubber from tires. And so this is just a cross section of it, a little cutaway.
Before we get into the construction a little bit, so you were saying replacing treated lumber. There's a lot of chemicals in treated lumber. There's a lot of people concerned about the chemicals in the rubber of tires too. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, sure. There no doubt there's some heavy metals. I mean, we've done analysis on that. The tire companies have that. It's readily available. Heavy metals is the primary contaminant. There are some other organics, volatile, on new tires especially. But what we need to understand is that all those metals are bound up in the rubber matrix when the tire is cooked and when it's cured in the making process. And so they don't leach out. Now, over decades, you're going to have some on the outside where the sunlight is.
The UV rays.
The UV will break some of that down. But on the inside, it takes a long time for any of that to become actually part of the growing medium, if you will, leach out into that. So research has shown that crumb rubber, that is an issue possibly, but with intact tires, no. I wouldn't worry about that. There is no direct evidence that is an issue. Now, I always tell people, gosh, if you're concerned about it, just don't use it.
Okay. So the crumb rubber that is broken up, there's a little more concern, but this is intact.
It has more area.
And definitely lower maintenance than treated lumber or any other wood material. So
correct.
All right, so let's get into the construction a little bit.
Sure.
So how do we get a tire like this into something that's flat like this?
Okay, so making rubber lumber, we're going to start with automobile tires. What you see here are just some semi-truck tires.
Right.
You just use it as a platform. But so we'll try to select well-worn tires, similar size, usually passenger car tires, SUV tires. The wider the better. You know, these tires this tread is 8 to 9 inches. The reason you can see it's the depth of the bed. This represents the depth of the soil here.
Okay.
All
right.
And so we use a saw.
Okay. What kind? Any particular type
Actually,
of
a jigsaw.
Okay,
with
jigsaw.
with a hacksaw blade.
Okay.
To cut up the tires.
Okay.
The instructions on that are in our manual.
Okay. All right. So you've been working on this. This is something that you like to do in the wintertime, right? Is that?
Oh, sure.
Get that lumber ready for a spring project?
I like to try to, if anyone's got a shop or likes to work with their hands and has some tools, this is a great winter project. Get the beds ready and in place, get the soil in place before spring planting.
Okay, so you get, 4, 5, 6 feet out of each tire, and then you have to then screw that together.
Yeah, so a piece of tread, it averages 6 to 7 feet in length.
Okay.
And so the longer the bed, the more sections of rubber you need. You cut the sidewalls out, cut the tire in two to make the long piece of tread. You overlap them about 3 inches. You secure them with some bolts, and then you attach these pockets with self-tapping screws.
Okay, so these are extra pieces that you've attached on here. What's
you can see that.
What's the purpose of those
pockets?
pockets?
So the pockets serve two purposes. They house the stake, which holds the rubber lumber upright, the side of the bed upright. And they also serve to secure the mulch film, if you choose to use mulch film, which is a weed barrier, on your beds.
Okay.
And so we can attach that to some lath. I think I've got a piece right here. It fits down in here. You basically you wrap the plastic mulch film or weed barrier around that several times, and you just insert it into that.
And so that creates a tight fit for it to come over.
Yeah, you stretch it and it doesn't come out.
All right. So you have these pockets. How often do you space those
About
pockets?
18 inches.
18
yeah.
inches.
Yeah, that's work for us. Yeah, there's a cost, but if you look at the total cost compared to a wood bed, much less, and then the maintenance cost, year-to-year costs, are very, very low, as you can imagine.
And these pockets are important because obviously as you fill up, would be the inside of the raised bed.
Here,
as you fill it up with soil, that pressure of the soil with this rebarb stakes going to help support those sidewalls a
Now,
little
obviously, if it was very high, this 3/8 inch rebar is not
You're gonna
sufficient.
need it.
But for 8 to 9 inches, works great.
All right, so let's talk a little bit. So this is a side, kind of like the side of our bed here. What do we do on the ends here?
Okay, to form the end of the bed, you just take a piece of tread.
Okay.
You don't have to secure it to the ground. Some people choose to, but you can wrap it around and then stick it on the inside. Run the inside.
So you would just do it
right.
between the two sidewalls.
It would be part of it would be on the inside here, come around, and then of course meet up with the other side.
Okay.
And the soil against the side holds it upright.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you're going to run your tiller over that, you might want to put a few stakes in it. But even then, it's flexible.
Yeah.
You can run a tiller just right up over the top of it and not hurt your tiller.
All right. And so on the end of the sidewalls here, you've just wrapped it around a bigger rebarb?
And we do this, we use a 1/2 inch rebar or a 1/2 inch piece of sucker rod. And those of us in the oil field know what that is. Okay, it's a little cheaper, but you've got to cut it up with a cutting torch or a chop saw. And then we'll use that, we'll drive this in first, so we can stretch it. We'll hook one end to that, and we'll hook a come along to the other end of the bed, and the other end of the rubber lumber when we're putting the sides up, right?
Okay, so that really stretches that and makes
Yeah,
it
we'll
nice
stretch it real tight. Not so tight that it pops, you know, your bolts loose.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do that anyway. You'll need a tractor to do that. But that gets it nice and taut, and then so it's standing upright.
Okay.
And then we'll go along and we'll insert our stakes.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. The first time you do it, you'll have a few questions, but the more you do it, I mean, I'm hooked on it. I mean, I'm a rubber lumber junkie now, and I love them because obviously we're taking the product out of the landfill, we're repurposing it, and we're improving our quality of life. And this bed, more than any of them, I think would have some commercial purpose on really poor soils.
Yeah.
You can make a lot of them in a short amount of time, relative short amount of time, when you get your process down.
Okay. Would you recommend a certain size? Obviously, it depends homeowner versus production, but is there an ideal size for something like this?
You know, I started making them 30 feet in length because my beds are 40 inches wide, and that's 100 square feet. It's really nice, the math, when you have to, you know, go to...
When you're doing any fertilizer or planting calculations.
All your amendments and things. So, but that's a little heavy for most folks. So 20 foot would be something that I think most people could handle. I mean, you can make them just one tire length, but I don't know. I prefer them a little longer because again, if you're actually serious about gardening, you're going to make a little larger bed than 6 foot long.
And let's talk a little bit about the depth. So, we mentioned that the width of the tread is the depth of the bed, but for most of our vegetable production, 6 to 8 inches is a good depth. I mean, would you agree with that?
Sure. It's all about management. If you've got a good soil, and then good soil mix, rich, a lot of water holding capacity. And remember, we're not putting the bottom of this. I don't usually put some kind of a barrier. I will go ahead and till the existing soil and mix in the growing medium in this bed with that, and so I have kind of a gradual change.
But it's a little looser towards the top. Yeah.
But yes, if you've got drip irrigation in it and you manage it properly, no problem, none whatsoever. It comes down to management.
All right, thank you, Steve, so much for showing us this. And obviously it's working well right here as we've got some different gourds growing on our plant here. So for more information on how you can create your own rubber lumber raised bed, check out our website. There are a lot of great horticulture activities this time of year. Be sure and consider some of these events in the weeks ahead. us next week on Oklahoma Gardening as we visit a garden nursery in southeastern Oklahoma. We show an alternative to keeping your lawn green, and we take a look at an heirloom squash. To find out more information about show topics as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure to visit our website at oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. And we always have great information, answers to questions, photos, and gardening discussion on your favorite social media as well. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. Tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater gem. We would like to thank our generous underwriter, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is also provided by Pond Pro Shops, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, the Oklahoma Horticultural Society, and Tulsa Garden Club.